Have you ever carried a wound so deep you were sure it would never heal? A pain so sharp that the anger and resentment started to feel like a part of you. For years, I thought forgiveness was something I had to force myself to do, a lonely battle fought inside my own head. I was wrong. The path to letting go, to truly healing, didn't start with me. It started when I really began to listen. There's a profound psychological truth we do talk about enough. Healing often begins not by wrestling with our own pain, but by opening ourselves to the stories of others. It's the idea that our shared experiences can give us a roadmap out of our own suffering. Today, we're exploring that truth. We allow a look at the science of how sharing stories can literally change our brains and open our hearts. And we'll hear from real people who found their way to forgiveness, not in isolation, but through the power of connection. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about understanding the mechanics of healing. Section 1. The problem, the weight of unforgiveness. First, let's just acknowledge the burden. Holding on to a grudge is exhausting. It's like lugging around a backpack full of rocks, or as the saying goes, drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. And these aren't just clever metaphors, they reflect a real, physiological truth. When you're trapped in a cycle of bitterness, your nervous system can get stuck in fight or flight mode. Research shows this chronic anger keeps your stress responses on constant high alert. And this isn't just in your head, it has measurable consequences. Study after study shows that unforgiveness is linked to higher anxiety, depression, and just plain lower self-esteem. It can mess with your physical health, too, contributing to high blood pressure and terrible sleep. One study even found that when people actively nurse a grudge, their levels of the stress hormone cortisol stay elevated. Your body is keeping score. That anger is real, it is heavy, and it keeps you chained to the past. It's an emotional prison, and the most frustrating part is not knowing where to find the key. Section 2. The turning point, introducing the first story. So if you're feeling trapped by that weight, what's the first step out? Most of us think we have to turn inward and wrestle with the pain alone. But what if the first step isn't inward, but outward? What if it all starts with just listening? I want to tell you about a woman named Clara. For more than a decade, Clara was consumed by a silent rage toward her father. He'd been emotionally absent her entire childhood, basically a ghost in their own home, and that wound shaped her whole life. She carried the anger into her adult relationships, building walls to keep anyone from hurting her again. She tried everything, therapy, journaling, you name it, but the bitterness was like a rock inside her. She felt completely stuck, convinced this anger was her life sentence. Section 3. Story Segment 1. Clara's story. One night, she reluctantly dragged herself to a small community meeting. A man she'd never seen before got up to speak. He didn't preach about forgiveness or talk philosophy. He just told his story. He talked about his own mother and the deep shame he carried for years because of his alcoholism, which had turned him into a distant, unreliable son. He spoke of the moment his mother, after all the pain he'd caused, told him she forgave him not for his sake, but for hers, so she could be free. Clara said in that moment, listening to him, something inside her just cracked open. For the first time, she wasn't just seeing her father as the villain who abandoned her. In this stranger's story, she saw a flawed, broken human being. She pictured her own father's unspoken shame. The story didn't excuse what he did, but it created a hairline fracture in the armor of her anger. It gave her a new lens to look through. She realized his story, like the stranger's, was also a story of pain. Hearing this didn't magically erase her hurt, but it opened a door. It allowed her to see forgiveness not as some impossible mountain to climb, but as a choice she could make for herself. That night, her real journey began. Section 4. Though how deconstructing the healing what happened to Clara wasn't magic. It's neuroscience. When we listen to a compelling story, our brains don't just process the words. A fascinating phenomenon called neural coupling can occur, where the listener's brain activity actually starts to mirror the storyteller's. It's almost as if we are experiencing the story ourselves. This process fires up some powerful systems in the brain. It can trigger the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone, which helps build feelings of trust and empathy. This is what allows us to connect with people and see the world from their point of view. Brain regions tied to empathy and perspective, like the anterior insula, light up. So, by hearing someone else's journey through pain and into forgiveness, our own brain gets a kind of template for how it can be done. This is the whole idea. Shared stories heal because they show us we're not alone in our struggles, and they give us a map. Forgiveness stops being about condoning what happened. It becomes a decision to release the painful emotional grip someone has on you for the sake of your own freedom. Section 5. Story Segment 2. A different path. But that path looks different for everyone. Take the story of Leo, He was betrayed by his best friend and business partner, losing his entire life's savings in the blink of an eye. For Leo, the anger was wiped out. He felt zero empathy. The idea of forgiving this person felt like a betrayal of himself. His mind was just consumed by fantasies of revenge. Leo's turning point didn't come from an emotional story. It came from cold, hard facts. He stumbled on research detailing the physical damage of holding on to intense rage, the increased risk of heart disease, the weakened immune system, the simple fact that people who practice forgiveness tend to live longer. You read about the difference between decisional forgiveness and emotional forgiveness. Decisional forgiveness is making a conscious choice to let go of resentment, even if the angry feelings are still there. So, Leo made a decision. He wasn't ready to feel anything positive, but he was done sacrificing his health for his anger. He made a cognitive choice to forgive. He literally wrote it down, a promise to himself that he would no longer let this betrayal control his well-being. It wasn't a warm, fuzzy moment. It was a calculated act of self-preservation. The emotional healing came much, much later. But it was the decision inspired by what he learned from others' experiences in that research that started it all. Section 6. The solution, a path to letting go. Both Clara's and Leo's stories show us that the journey is possible. The question is, how do you start? Fortunately, psychologists have developed practical, evidence-based frameworks to guide us. One of the most powerful is the REACH forgiveness model, developed by Dr. Everett Worthington. This model has been proven effective across different cultures and has been used in the largest forgiveness study ever conducted. It's a 5-step process you can think about right now. R is for recall the hurt. Don't suppress the memory, but choose to look at it without being defined as a victim. E is for empathize. This is often the hardest part. It's not about excusing the behavior. It's about trying to understand the perspective of the person who hurt you, seeing their flawed humanity, like Clara did. A is for the altruistic gift. Remember a time you were forgiven and how good that felt. Then, choose to offer that same gift to someone else, mainly for your own freedom. C is for commit. Commit to the choice you've made. Some people write it down to make it feel more real. H is for hold. When old anger and doubts creep back in, and they probably will, you hold on to the commitment you made to yourself. This is a journey, and having people to share it with makes all the difference. If these stories and ideas are hitting home for you, I hope you'll subscribe and join our community. We explore these paths to healing together because no one should have to walk them alone. Section 7. The journey, not the destination. It's so important to remember that forgiveness is a process, not a flip of a switch. It usually unfolds in stages. First, you have to acknowledge the anger and the hurt. Then you make that conscious decision to let go. After that, you work through all the messy, complicated emotions. And finally, you find a way to integrate the experience into your life. You might start with a logical decision, just like Leo, long before your heart is ready to catch up. And that's perfectly okay. The goal isn't to erase the memory. It's to release yourself from the emotional prison it built. The goal is to get to a place where thinking about what happened no longer hijacks your body with stress, a place where you can genuinely wish the other person well, not for them, but for you. That is the core of emotional forgiveness, and it's the real destination. The power of forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's been said that it's about giving up all hope for a better past. It's about reclaiming your present and your future. The stories we've shared today, from Clara and Leo, show us that this journey, while so deeply personal, is also universally human. In the stories of others, we find the permission to feel our own pain. We find a blueprint for a way through it, and we find the comforting truth that we are not alone. Healing starts when we have the courage to listen to each other, and finally, to that part of ourselves that is ready to let go. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, and you can start unwrapping it the moment you open yourself up to our shared human story. The healing power of sharing continues right here. If you feel comfortable, I'd love for you to share a part of your own journey in the comments. Not for advice or judgment, but simply to add your voice to the collection, to be a light for someone else who might be feeling lost in the dark. Your experience matters. Thank you for listening.